Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello, and welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast, episode 94, where we share the experiences and the challenges of flying in midlife. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, training for private or instrument, or just thinking about getting into aviation, we'd like to think of the podcast as your aviation companion and your weekly dose of aviation inspiration. My name is Ben. I am a commercial-rated pilot living in the metro Atlanta area. I almost said the city name. I don't know why I feel like I need to hide it or not. I live in Marietta, and I fly an airplane. Oh, yeah. They're going to find me now. I fly an airplane called the Beast. It's a Cessna 182, which I have been getting a lot of hours in lately. Tonight, joining us, we have from Nashville, home of the Bachelorette Super Charlie, flying a Cherokee 180 we like to call Lucy. We have Mr. Siskin. Brian, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here. Glad to see everybody. And I'm super excited about this topic. And been doing a little bit of flying myself, but not nearly as much as the week prior.
Roger that. Also joining us tonight, as always, our sport pilot extraordinaire based in Portlandia, flying a flight design CTLS we like to call the Egg, our friend Ted. How you doing, sir?
Hey, doing well. Yeah. You know, you said, I don't know why this hasn't hit me before, but you were saying Cherokee 180, and the way you said 180 and kind of hung, my brain auto-completes for 182. It's just like, you know,
Brian is upgraded.
He's now grid of your brain.
It's more like a 180 also.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe.
Hey, Ted, do you ever watch Portlandia?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, a lot of people don't like it here. I really did.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it hits a little close to home, but I just was watching one of these the other day that I hadn't seen in a while, where it was the one where they go to the restaurant and they're trying to get all the information about the chicken that they're ordering, and they get his name, like how he was raised, and all this. The chicken's name was Colin, and then they continue to talk to the waitress to the point where they go, "Well, we just need to see this farm for ourselves." And so they leave the table, and then they go to the farm, and then it ends up being like a cult or whatever, and then they both become sort of mesmerized by this charismatic leader of the farm table cult.
I'm pretty sure that was the first episode of Portlandia as well. But yeah, it captures some of the earnestness of Portland. It's like these aren't people that are pickling because that's the fad. It's because they grow things in their garden and they're very passionate and they want to, preserve the cucumbers that they have in excess of.
That's right.
And so I love that earnestness that it captures.
Yeah. Sorry, I feel like you're going to show up in a scene and you never do. So
no, but I know some of the people that have been in there. So the guy on the unicycle in a kilt with the bagpipes with flames. Yeah, he's a nice guy.
I hope he is.
Yeah,
I mean, why wouldn't he?
He wears a Darth Vader mask, and it's then he has the mask off, and you're like, oh, this is a really good looking guy, and he wears a mask. It's like usually it's for us ugly people that wear masks. So anyway, he's a nice guy.
So how's our aviation podcast going tonight? We were just having a hard time.
Oh man, it's great.
It's that 30-minute delay. You can just put it on my shoulders.
I know. It's like it's an information whiskey all over again.
That's exactly right. We want to get real quick to events and announcements. We'll be broadcasting our 100th episode on Monday, October 28th. We will be broadcasting live from 4 Golf 7, Fairmont Airport in Fairmont, West Virginia. If you don't know, that's the base camp for the midlife pilot, Chris Moran. So we're getting really excited about that. It's sneaking up on us.
Yes. Yeah. It'll be a great time to be in West Virginia in the fall, too.
Ooh, yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Brian, you want to talk us through the housekeeping tonight.
Yeah. A little bit of quick Patreon housekeeping. And by the way, it's been a great week in our community. There's been a lot of really interesting things going on. Great achievements being declared and pronounced, for other people to see. And there are conversations also going on in there that I don't understand, and I have to Google about 4 or 5 things. So it can be either way. It can be like, this is, people just starting out, you want to be helpful. And then other people where it's like, why are they talking about thermodynamics and what is going on here? But anyway, so real quick, we'd like to thank our listeners for making this the best pilot community that we know of. It's a positive, encouraging, supportive place where we talk about everything from training, bad radio calls, sharing our personal minimums to keep each other accountable, the challenges of plane ownership, offering feedback on flight plans, and arranging community meetups. Basically, it's a goldmine of experience and camaraderie, and it's not just about flying, but really growing as midlife pilots. So quickly, some ways to engage with this community, and even if you don't even want to be a part of the community, you can support the podcast on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. That is 25 cents per episode, and I honestly think they're worth 30 or 35 cents. So I think I don't know. You guys can be the judge, but you can support the podcast that way, and then you'll be in at the base level in the community on Discord. You'll get access to miles of bonus content, including check ride debriefs with community members, stories of challenging flight experiences, and much more. 10% of the proceeds of our Patreon are donated to the Freedom Aviation Network, who works with volunteer pilots to provide safe, efficient, and rapid air transportation for survivors of human trafficking and their advocates. So we always want to support them. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel that you are possibly watching this live stream on right now. Otherwise, if you're an audio person, check us out on the YouTubes. And most importantly, send us feedback. We love hearing from listeners with insights and stories. And you can send an email or a voice memo to midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can just go to our website. We respond to every message eventually, and you might even hear yourself on a future episode. So to join the community, give feedback, have a look at our merch or anything else, visit midlifepilotpodcast.com. Boom.
Good job. I want to pop in and say we have 2 new Patreon supporters this week. I want to say thanks to them. At the Hershey Bar level, we have Skip L. And at the Caps Available level, we have Dan S. And yeah, really appreciate that, people that joined. Yes. I summarized our kind of what I saw going on in Discord this week. And so here's my list. There was talk about headsets for tall people. Also talk about Zulu versus Faro noise cancellation. ProFlight versus A30 versus Halo. So lots of headset discussions. IFR takeoff minimums. Asking for North Las Vegas PIREPs for landing there. Collecting runway directions, Ben. In our total random channel, which usually has boat stuff in it, we had camping and bicycle breaks. Alyssa and Chris talked about lasering everything related to aviation.
Lasering everything.
Everything.
Great pictures of a Cessna 150 type club camp out. I really like that. And then there's talk of a Atlanta meetup in about 10 days. And finally, today, Erica came in, one of our favorites, one of our favorite CFIs, came in and just dropped a bomb. She hates Gumps and then walked away.
Yeah.
Erica, you've got to say more.
Yeah.
You hate Gumps, nothing else was said. And I love that.
That might be the best, most unpopular opinion that we've seen this year.
I just loved dropping it and walking away. I thought that was great.
So, that's awesome. Yeah, it's been busy. I was out of town this weekend, and we'll get to that in a minute. But every time I pulled up on my phone, the app, there were like 100 messages. I mean, it was just blowing up this weekend. I was like, that's going to take me forever to get through all this. But no, it was great.
That's actually a thing too, is it can be a little, you don't need to, if you're in this community, you don't need to feel like you've got to keep an eagle eye on everything that's going on. it's just happening. Pick your spots. You don't have to.
That's what I love about it, because you could pick up one morsel, and then if you're interested in it, then you can go back and read through the chat. But otherwise, you can just mark everything as read and move right along.
Dip in and leave. Yeah.
So
that's right.
Tonight, we're going to be talking about going beyond the $100 hamburger, and that does not mean the $200 pizza. We're going to talk about doing other things than going out and grabbing a bite to eat by use of your airplane. But I did want to check in with you guys. Both of you did a little flying. Ted, your Ansel Adams backdrops have just, they get better and better every time you post a video. Tell us exactly where you went for this camping trip.
So the camping trip was last week, and I was all through Washington State, almost 9 hours of flying. And I camped at...
You burned 15 gallons of gas.
Yeah, exactly. I camped at Grand Coulee Dam Lake. I don't even know if that's the name of the lake, but whatever. But Eastern Washington always surprises people because we call it the dry side. There's the green, wet western side of the state, and as soon as you cross over the mountains, it just turns brown. And I even know where that is coming from Portland. Like, you go through this pass and everything just turns, and it's really cool. I've been able to pay attention to that now.
It really is.
But it's a pretty place, and it's unique. And I went to fly. I was collecting passport stamps, and I went to drop into this airport, and it wasn't really. I thought, I'm just going to grab the stamp and go. It's just one on the list. And I dropped down into this little gorge with this little river and going into this town. And it was beautiful. And I was so surprised by what a little gem of a place it was. So that's what I put up on the video, was nothing to it, right? It's just introvert flying. There's hardly any talking in it. It's just me flying into this little town and this cute little airport. So, and I didn't really talk about it much in the video, but there's like 9 very unique Vietnam era helicopters that are there. And they use them to dry cherries if it rains right before harvest season for the cherries. Because if they get rained on and it stays on them, they burst. And so it just destroys a crop. So they take these helicopters, they're huge helicopters, and just hover over fields and blow off the rain. If it's within that week or two before the harvest. So
looks like I need to go get my rotary license.
Yes. Yeah. I saw, they hire 10 rotary pilots per year. And it was like, hey, we're hiring them. We're hiring a cook. We're hiring, a mechanic, and, housing's provided, food is provided, but you're just out in the agricultural part of Washington. And that's what you're doing all day is flying these things low. So
it is really nice out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't spent any time, but I really would love to go out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's one of the things I love about aviation is, I used to go over there by motorcycle, and it's a good 6+ hours. And in this case, it's less than 2 hours, and I can just hop over there and be at these places that I've never seen, and little places that you don't necessarily get into if you're driving over that way. So
you're amazingly lucky too, that there's that variation of topography and just, it's so drastic. Like you're saying, like you get across the Cascades, and it's like, what is going on? We're in the desert. How did we get into the desert?
Yeah.
How are there wineries everywhere all of a sudden?
Right.
It's very strange. And so I don't know, you have to, fly a pretty long way around here for things to drastically change in that way. So that's a great thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the stamp collecting is just an excuse to go find these places that you wouldn't necessarily go to if you're just pointing out airports on a map,
right?
Or choosing a place.
And in your video, spoiler alert, you go around.
Oh no. Yeah.
And you could have put some really harrowing music in there,
It titled it with that, put the thumbnail up. You won't believe what happened. It's like, no,
I almost died.
Yeah. It was just a go around. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah. It was
How do you
cool.
land twice?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
Brian,
what?
have you been flying?
Oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah, no, I haven't been flying that much in the past week, but I did fly with our friend Adam here, who's in the chat. He hadn't been up in a while, and it was his birthday, so happy birthday again, Adam. And he had told me, I don't know, months in advance, I want to fly on my birthday because he's in a spot right now where he's challenged to do that with life circumstances and humans. He keeps creating humans. He's got a lot of challenges. So anyway, we went, we flew to see our friend Luke from Luke's Landing, the channel Luke's Landing.
Nice.
Went to go see my friend Luke in, was it Cookville?
Yeah.
SRB. And we went to a little donut shop and hung out for a little while and did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Got my front nose strut topped off and came back. And then, I will say to a cursory degree, we had a very interesting return flight in that everything was really cozy and good. And, we had a fun cloud dance to get through to, get on course. And so we came in, we were pretty close to the Nashville airspace at about 8,500. And we were sitting up there pretty high, which for people that aren't used to Cherokees and Hershey bar wing planes to be in, I could do this. When they slam dunk me, I don't really care. I kind of enjoy it. It's so easy to get down in that plane.
I was going to say, aren't all approaches in a Hershey bar wing slam dunks? I mean,
yeah, right.
Whether it's ATC's fault or not, it's
But let's just say we were on with Memphis Center, and Adam was right to say, like, shouldn't we have gotten our hand off by now? I was like, well, I've done that path, many, many times, and they will wait, and the guy was not terribly busy, but anyway, let's just say we got to the point where it was really important that we found out whether we were getting a handoff or not. And he acted like he'd never heard of us. It's kind of like, how if you, when you're in 8th grade and you go to the dance and, you're excited because you feel like that this girl you want to talk to, that you might have some headway because you said hello to her in the hall the other day and she said hello to you. And for you, it was this hugely important, building block in your relationship. And then you see her out, 3 days later, and she honestly doesn't even know anything about, she's never seen you before. That was how we got treated by Memphis Center. And then so consequently, when we had to call up B&A, they didn't know who we were. And then I was into sort of a traffic deconfliction mode. There was a lot of things going on. We were over the outer shelf, but I had to go down. Long story short, without getting into the details of it, I was very happy to contact our good friend who's been on the show before, ATC Scott, and he gave me some really good clarity on why that may have happened and, set it straight in the sense that, there wasn't necessarily a whole lot that, there's always something you can do in hindsight, but in reality and in that scenario, we did, all that anybody could really be expected to do. So it was a very interesting little, sort of encounter. And then we got cleared right through, and then, put it down and had a nice little trip. So nice. That was about it. And then I took Lucy back to the hangar, which is a 30-minute flight. And it's weird, man, how that flight was my solo cross country, and it was this terrifying thing. And now it's just the Sunday drive. It's nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that evolution is not lost on me. I was actually thinking about that. I got almost 10 hours since the last episode of flying. Good. But it's so there's that, the things that used to terrify us that don't. The other thing that I realized that I've graduated from is that I used to snicker whenever ATC would say altitude.
Yeah.
I want to say altitude.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I feel like I've kind of finally moved on. I'm 1,080 hours into it now. And now it's okay, whatever. It's now kind of. And
now it's intentions.
It's, I just, It's weird. It's like the stuff that used to make me giggle is not making me giggle like it used to. So,
never lose that. Come on.
Never. I know. I'll come up with something a little bit better. But no.
But I get you.
Took a trip with my youngest son Evan and my dad down to.
Hang on.
Bingo boards ready.
Yep. This is a big deal. All right, everybody ready? All right, go ahead.
Apalachicola.
Yes.
Apalachicola.
Apalachicola. Posted a few pics on Instagram. We had a great trip. Evan is in school down in Cochran, Georgia, 48 Alpha. And that was a significant landing for me. I was able to land on runway 11, which was the last runway designation that I was missing.
Oh.
I did use AI I loaded my logbook into an Excel spreadsheet, not Excel spreadsheet, in a Word doc, and was able to pull out all the different runway designations that are available. And then I went back in my logbook, see what I landed on, and runway 11 was the one that I hadn't hit. So now I have landed on every runway designation. I feel like I shouldn't feel as proud as I do, but it took a while for me to get there.
What's that movie? Every Which Way But Loose?
Yeah. Every Which Way, Clint Eastwood. That's right.
Yeah.
It's a cool accomplishment. I think maybe you should have respected your personal minimums and not landed with a 30-knot tailwind just to get the 11 in. But hey, that's me. Yeah.
For the first time, though, it was actually, the winds have been coming from the east for a little while. So it actually worked out this time. So, and then it was a fun trip. I had to fly from Appalachia to Flagler Beach, Florida, which is on the East Coast, and got to go through some airspaces that I don't normally do and do that weird Florida thing. I don't know if y'all have done this, but
the north-south thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're flying, I was flying eastbound at an even altitude because it was slightly southbound. And I think you fly even when you're going south and odd when you're going north.
Where does that start?
It's a great question. I only know this because when we were leaving Flagler to come back home, it was pretty much right at the state line, Georgia-Florida state line. The ATC comes back on and says, need you at an even altitude, because I was in a westerly heading. And he said, you want to go up or down? And it was literally like right over the Georgia state-Florida line.
I bet those center controllers are so tired of that.
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's just part of the deal these days. So,
seems like that's not as widely known. And I would imagine, I don't know, a lot of traffic that comes in and out would not be aware.
Well, I mean, you think about it geographically, there's not very much space going east to west down the peninsula of Florida, right? And there's so much training traffic there. It is always, every time I've flown down anywhere close to Daytona, it's a beehive there. It feels like 24/7. So, yeah, it's called for, and it's, I'm glad they do it that way. It's a smart decision, I think, on their part.
That phenomena extends pretty far west also, along the Gulf Coast, because even when I went down to Mobile and I went out one day thinking, I'm going to hit all these different airports and see how they are and all that. And I just got to, every airport I was going to, there was 6 in the pattern. So I just said, no, I'm not going to do that. Except for Dauphin Island.
Right.
Nobody in the pattern at Dauphin Island.
Today I got
you caught a big fish, by the way.
Yeah.
You caught a gigantic fish.
Yeah, 35-pound black drum.
Yeah, you were calling it a drum, and I had no idea what you were talking about for a little bit. And then I realized, oh, wait, that's the kind of fish.
That's the kind of fish. Yeah. It felt like it was a 55-gallon drum, but no, it was a lot of fun. I've caught a few of those in the past, and it took me about 20 minutes to get it in, and it's pretty light tackle, so it's a bit of a challenge.
That's cool.
And then I got to do a special flight today, very last minute, going over to Gadsden, Alabama. Our friend, Mr. Larry Lee, was taking the Albatross in for its annual, and he asked for a ride back over. So
he wanted to go the slow way, huh?
It's better than driving. Slightly better than driving.
Yeah.
So we have We have John D here, who looks like he did
He said he's about to do his 150 nautical mile sail across country. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Cool.
And then he listed his airports, and they're near you, Brian.
They're in the neighborhood, and those are all very busy training environment airports. So, when just like anything else, when you're raised in that environment, you adapt. You get used to having your head on a swivel. So that's a good thing. But yeah, that's exciting. I'm sure you'll do great.
Oh yeah, that sail across country is so much fun.
It's the best.
Yeah.
I still rank it slightly higher than the first solo.
I agree.
I just do. So
yeah.
Why don't we get into the main topic, Brian? You want to tee us up on the your thoughts on going beyond the $100 hamburger, doing something a little bit different, maybe?
Yeah, and to reiterate what you said earlier, Ben, I know that last week I talked about a $1,000 sandwich,
Right?
that I would definitely do again if I could. But no, I think that and the community informs, I think, a lot of these topics, or at least gets us thinking. It's not necessarily that these topics come up explicitly, although sometimes they do out of the community. But sometimes you just see the tonality or the shades of commonality between a lot of different maybe conversations and things. And of course, what are pilots talking about? Going places, doing stuff. And most of us as midlife pilots have not been doing this for terribly long and are very interested in taking the limited amount of time that we have, often because we're busy, doing other things besides being a full-time pilot, which I know we have some of those too, but I'm just saying, beyond the $100 hamburger. So the idea, I guess, is just that I think that it's an opportunity to use your imagination. I see some pilots, I think, hitting a little bit of a rut. Not a rut, maybe just getting a little bit into a loop with what they believe are they get a $100 hamburger, and then it's okay, where's the next place that I can go eat? And where's the next place that I can go eat? And I love all that. But, and I love also when places are right on the field or things like that. But in this part of the country, there's not a lot of those. And I think that maybe that's forced my hand in my exploration to find a lot of different opportunities that are maybe you have to look a layer more deeply into a place that you're going. The best example I can think of right away is, going to a place where bring food with you or get food however, wherever, forget the food part. And just think about it as what are the oddities and what are the things that you can go see? Typically, most of us are flying planes that, are Cherokees or Cessnas, or, we're not flying really high performance planes usually. And I have found that when I go to where I live on a map and just kind of draw a circle around it, it's kind of like, how long do I want to fly? How much money do I want to spend on fuel? It ends up being usually about, I think an hour is kind of the sweet spot, an hour to somewhere and an hour back. But even, between 30 minutes and an hour, let's just say, is kind of the sweet spot so you're not, and a lot of this is geared towards people that started out like I did, where I was renting the same plane that I trained in, and it had a 3-hour window whether I was going to do maneuvers to prepare for my check ride or try to go somewhere real fast, and it was kind of a drag. But it helps me tighten up these plans. And then I still do this, being a person that has access to a plane on my own now. So when I think about that, I think about a lot of the trips that I've done, especially if they're based in where you live, they're in this territory typically where, and I know this isn't the same for people, some people are in New York or whatever, but here, at least Nashville, you're kind of in the middle of the country. And there are definitely things in any direction, a lot of great things. But when I'm driving to or from Nashville on a long trip, I'm not taking day trips to go drive 2 or 3 hours to spend a few hours somewhere and then come back. But that's what you can do. There's this whole sweet spot of a range around your home airport. And it might seem like a lot of these places don't have a lot to offer because they don't have a restaurant on the field, or there's not a place that everybody talks about,
right,
or whatever. But if you just let that part go and really dig into more cultural exploration, historical exploration, people watching, going just to weird places that you would never go to, that are not necessarily terribly far from where you live, but they're not places that you would stop. They're maybe not even really places that are near the interstate, so you're kind of, I don't know, going to places like that. So a great example for me, I think, and I want to hear it from you guys too, and what your thoughts are. And a lot of reason why I brought this up is I just want people to be encouraged to continue to find reasons to go. There's just a lot more than the non-committal half-day flight. You can still do a non-committal half-day flight and make something purposeful out of it. But I would say the one for me that's been one of the coolest is, and by the way, the irony of this is there's actually, of all the places, there's a restaurant on the field, which is like that never happens around here. But even the place that has the restaurant on the field happily will go bypass and go into town. And the reason why, the airport is Cullman, Cullman, Charlie Mike Delta, 1 hour flight or a little bit less here from Nashville, at least in a Cherokee 182. a Cherokee 180 also
as well. Yes.
And you get there, you get the crew car, you go into town, and this is great because you're on a time schedule. You can't keep the crew car forever. Fine, good, use that constraint. But you go into Cullman and they have a whole abbey, a whole monastery where this Benedictine monk spent his whole life carving out of the landscape and installing all of these miniatures of all these scenes from all over the world. And the only way you'll believe it is if you just got to go Google it or whatever. But it's just one of the most amazing things. But why am I not thinking of the name right now? What's it called, Ted? It's the,
sorry, I was looking because I thought that we'd mentioned it before.
Yeah, we have before. I definitely have before.
I
don't know why it's just escaping me right now. I guess because I'm just
put the research department on it.
Yeah, but anyway,
is that the St. Bernard Abbey?
No,
in Cullman, Alabama. Wrong place.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, are you sure? But there's a name for it. Hold on.
Yeah. Well, some of the places, like one of the places that I tend to go,
Ave Maria Grotto.
Grotto.
Right.
Yeah.
That does sound a little bit better.
So Ave Maria Grotto is a perfect example of a place that not only was the most amazing half day trip to take, where you can just go there for an hour and take a little tour of this and go to the bakery and get the bread and whatever, and the cookies the monks make. But to see this kind of eighth wonder of the world, it's the most insane thing. You could never even really explain it to somebody, so that's why I'm not even going to try. But the level of detail and depth and sort of magic this place possesses is unbelievable. And the element of surprise about it is so key. And so you can take somebody there on a flight and just say, I'm going to show you something that's pretty cool. Go get some bread and some cookies at this place, or whatever, and bring it back. It has been massively inspirational, I think, to people that I've taken there. And then also I've used it in, whatever, I've taken film stuff there, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just a really neat place. So the point is, go find these little cultural, artistic nuggets of magic, of seeming insignificance. I can't tell you how many people in Nashville where I said, have you ever been to the Ave Maria Grotto in Cullman, Alabama? And they just go, what? Like, what are you talking about? And it's because nobody's stopping through there, but it's very close. So anyway, that's my beyond the $100 hamburger pitch is I challenge people to go and find something magical and seemingly insignificant or unknown to others?
So here's what I love about this conversation, because I think I know it's going to vary greatly depending on what part of the country you live in. However, there's going to be those nuances, those little quirky places anywhere in this country, and quite frankly, everywhere in this country. I took a trip down to Telfair, Wheeler County, which is in McRae, Georgia. And there is a state park there with this massive golf course. I think there's 54 holes of golf there. And the airport reminds me a lot of Ocracoke Island. It is a strip of asphalt or concrete, and it's got a little shack with one of those hotel phones. It doesn't have any numbers to punch on it. You just pick up the phone and somebody at the state park answers, and you can tell them to come pick you up. And the state park is absolutely beautiful. And that's a golf course. If you don't have to go there to play golf, but they've got this beautiful dining room, and it's just these pine trees are scattered throughout the property. So you can see a long way, but it's studded with trees all over the place. It's just this very serene place. And had never been there before until I flew into this airport, and really nice folks come pick you up, and the food was outstanding. Another time, a buddy of mine is one of my running partners, Hal, got in the plane with me, never flown before, in a small plane. And we just flew up to Toccoa, Georgia. And it's this beautiful FBO. It sits up on top of a hill, and they've got like these 8 rocking chairs that you can sit out. And there's a bunch of guys in RVs going out, doing their little fly-in and stuff. And you just sit out there and chill. There's no noise other than the aircraft. I mean, it was a really peaceful setting. There's so many out there. I can't tell you how many airports I've been to that I've noted that, you know what, I need to come back here other than just stopping for fuel. Mm-hmm. Or I need to come back here on a more purposeful basis. Listen, we can hear from Ted. He's just going from one postcard to the next for where he lives. But I have to believe it doesn't matter where you are in this country. There is more to explore. There's people that used to go from coast to coast in the cars just for the sake of the road trip. There's no reason why it can't be any different in the airplane. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what you're getting to, Brian.
One of the things that I like to do is go find the water. And, you know, oftentimes these airports are against a river, against the ocean, whatever it happens to be. And I was just trying to look it up and remember where it was. But in Northern Virginia, along the Cumberland River, landed at this little, like, tiny strip. I was renting a plane over DC area, and I just bushwhacked through until I got to the river and just sat there along the river and just watched the smooth river, you know, with trees over the banks, just watched it, you know, flowing. Nobody else around. There was no way to get there. There was no trail to it or anything else. But I really like those experiences.
And you didn't have anything with you wrapped up in a tarp?
Yeah. Not that I'm going to admit to. Yeah. I did that once up here in a very picturesque place, because of course it was, where you're landing right against the ocean, and on Orcas Island, ORS, and the ocean is just to the north of it. And I thought, great, I'm going to walk along the edge of the airport property as close as I can get to the water. And there was a fence, so you couldn't get all the way there. But as I walked to it, and then you can see the next islands in the distance, and just amazing. And then there's blackberries. They're right there, and they're basically falling off the vine. And so I'm sitting there just grabbing a handful of blackberries and eating them, and going to the next plant and grabbing more and eating them. And those experiences are just great, right? It's not, you're not seeking it out. You're not going because of a restaurant or something like that. It's just, I'm there. Let me go find what's around here.
$30 blackberries.
Yes, $30 blackberries. Yes. Yeah.
Which is actually a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And it's also, it's that opportunity to create experiences. I think I've told the story. Maybe the very first time I came onto the podcast with you and Chris, did a Pilots and Paws, took these dogs down to Cordele, and this thunderstorm system just sat north of the airport on a line that was 200 miles long that we couldn't get around. And we sat in this building that was built in the 40s, had a big screen TV, and we watched Batman Returns, and it was the only light source in the area, and there was like 10,000 bugs covering this complete. The front of the building was nothing but glass. And it felt like we were in a horror movie watching a TV show. And we leave at midnight. Evan falls asleep in the plane 3 minutes after taking off, and land back at McCollum and have to jump the fence because we can't figure out how to get out of the airport.
Oh yeah.
That's one of those famous stories, right? Like everybody's got the experience of jumping the fence to get out of the airport.
Right.
It's like a rite of passage.
But if you don't go to these small airports or do something beyond the $100 hamburger, you're not going to have those experiences.
Yeah. I really like, it's not something you do when you're in training, but I really like going to an airport, shutting down the plane, getting out and walking. Well, I hate to walk. I'd rather be on a bicycle or something a little faster, but the experience of this is why you learn to fly wasn't to go do maneuvers and do touch and goes and keep going because you've got a CFI next to you and the clock is ticking. You went so that you can go explore and go have a good time. And so as I was getting out of training, I even did it on my cross country, but especially as I was getting out of training, it's like you start doing more of that. You're renting. It doesn't cost anything to leave the plane with the engine off. And you can just go have a little 20-minute experience in a place you don't go to otherwise.
Yeah. Well, and also, how many airports do you go to? How many of them are new and just built? Right? None.
Very rare.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put you all on the spot, but I'm going to go first. But think of an airport that you haven't been to yet, or maybe you've been to, but you've kind of earmarked, like, this is a place I need to come back to. For me, there's Early County Airport down in South Georgia, and it's kind of close to Providence Canyon. They call it the Little Grand Canyon, which is it's really a beautiful little area. It's another state park, and say what you want to about the state parks, but Georgia's got some great ones, and I do enjoy spending the time there. But that's kind of the one that I have on my bucket list next. Do either of you have a place that you've kind of had on your radar that you've been wanting to get to?
You guys know mine.
Is it Marfa?
No.
Oh.
Well, this place I haven't been to, but I'm dying to get to. It's.
I think I do know. Is it Tangier Island?
Tangier Island.
Which would be pretty close there in a couple of weeks.
I know. Believe me, I told somebody the other day, I said, it's so ripe for the possibility to take off from the 100th episode recording and go there from there. And I thought, so if I just make no other mention of this as something that I desire to do, then it will happen. But if I start thinking about it or plan it, it will not. So
right,
that's how I'm leaving that. So I think that it's very possible. It's impossible for me to ignore how much closer I will be to Tangier Island. Definitely in day trip reach at the very least. And I think it's, I mean, why of all the, because the thing I was getting at about the airports not being new is like many of them are going away.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to patronize these places and help try to keep them alive in whatever way that we can. And even more pressing when the entire island that this airport is on is almost, half now underwater and won't be there at all probably in 30 or 40 years. The whole island, much less the airport.
Yeah, good point.
It's going to be Atlantis.
Yeah, it's the first. I guess what they would say, sort of, people that have been affected by environmental situations in such a way that now they're just going to be displaced. That history is going to be gone because the water is somebody keeps adding ice cubes to this whole thing or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Ted, you had something you wanted to run down.
There's one that I've wanted to get back to, and that's Killayute. It's UIY. It is in the middle of nowhere. Actually, it's next to Forks. So if anybody has kids that like that vampire series Twilight, it's near there. But it is completely overgrown. It's this massive World War II base. I've talked about it a little bit, but I really want to get back there and explore. And
starts with a Q, right?
Yeah. It's like QUILL is how it starts.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of stories there, and I doubt that they're written down anywhere. I think that people haven't really been there for a lot of years. Although there is a NOAA weather station there that they do the balloons, the soundings.
Yeah.
And that's even an automated facility, though. That's how unmanned the area is.
By the way, I'm sorry, I went to mention this when I was talking about Marfa last week, but I got to see the Gigantor balloon in the sky. That's
the 15,000.
Yes,
I've seen that on a map, but I
my
never.
friends were like, "No, you
saw
can
it in
just see it. It's right there." I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "They're like, look right there, look above there." It's like locating an aircraft from the ground. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is so crazy."
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know about this
tethered balloon.
If you look on a VFR chart and you look, especially near the southern border, I know there's one near Tucson, and obviously there's one near Marfa. You'll see a ring that is marked, danger area, and then it says, warning, tethered balloon 15,000 feet. I've flown near it, and I never saw it. I didn't fly like 100 yards away from it, right? I flew 10 miles away from it, but but you saw it.
Yeah, I saw it, and it got a little bit of the background on it and how it's being used and some inside information.
You're basically radar, right?
I can't talk about what I heard.
I think they're aerostats, is what that balloon type is called.
I want to hit a couple of the comments from our chat. We've got a really busy chat tonight. And for those of you that are listening, we typically stream live on YouTube Monday evenings at 8. Tonight was at 8:30. But you can go to youtube.com at Midlife Pilot Podcast. Brian D. just mentioned he's a 182 driver, so, he's all good with me.
Oh, no.
Last weekend, I woke up early and took my 182 from Philly to Portland, Maine. We picked up 25 fresh lobsters and we're home in the early afternoon for a lobster fest in the backyard.
Lobsters.
Wow.
So my equivalent to that is I got two buddies. We're going to fly down to New Orleans to grab some beignets and bring them back for breakfast.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I would do.
Yeah.
Also in the chat, Corey M., he took his kids, quote unquote, fly fishing, went to 2I3 at Rough River in Kentucky, which is awesome.
Rough River is a great little place. There's a little resort there and all that,
Oh,
we briefly talked about doing a meetup there.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one that's like at a state park.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kentucky has really good state parks with runways that were all built out, I suppose, in the 50s. But this one's got, the whole resort and that's where the Kennard meetup is.
Oh.
And then I know that Just Plain Silly guy, Brian, and all of his people meet up there.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a cool spot.
Yeah.
And you've gone fly fishing, Ben, in that way. Have you done it as a day trip?
I haven't done it as a day trip yet, but I would like to. There's a couple of places in North Georgia that I could get up to and actually go fly fishing and fly fishing. Is that what that would be?
Yeah. Fly fishing. I like it. Can't say it, but I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mag in the New Orleans area is offering to help you out with that beignet trip. So,
boom,
Mr. Mike Alpha Golf. I can promise you it may be within the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned. I will definitely reach out to you.
And that's an airport that is on my bucket list as well.
It's an approach like none other. You can feel. We all know New Orleans has a vibe.
Yes.
You can feel that vibe on final approach. You don't even have to be on the ground.
That's cool.
When you're coming into it, you just kind of feel like you're settling into New Orleans.
And the architecture and the story of that airport is pretty fascinating.
And that's part of the reason why you can feel it when you're on final approach.
I was just reading about that. I'll make sure to put it in the notes and figure out if it was AOPA or what. But
I kind of want to do a meetup there.
One of them covered how, literally everything in that airport was covered up until after Katrina, and they discovered all these amazing murals that were on the inside of that building and everything else.
It was an Art Deco masterpiece that was covered up by bad sort of 80s or 90s renovation, as I understand it. And then when the hurricane came through, it just destroyed all this bad drywall overlay. And they basically had built a shell around the underlying structure to reveal this place that actually was awesome. And then they really leveled up and redid, restored everything.
Thankfully, it was preserved through neglect, which is better than...
I love that, Michael Gillette's listening right now being like, that's not, okay, that's kind of, okay, all right, just, I can't even listen to this.
Hey, need to have him on to give us the full story.
Yeah.
As we're rolling out of here, I want to read a feedback we got. I'm actually going to read kind of a condensed version of it, but we'll get a feedback from a listener, Brian W. Let's see. Oh, I got that name wrong. It's David W. Too many Brians here. So David says, I'm a 36-year-old who has dreamed for the last 30 years of being a pilot. In 5th grade, I was diagnosed with a degenerative eye disease and became legally blind in both eyes. In December 2023, I had my second corneal transplant complete. My left eye is now corrected to 20/20, and my right eye is on track to be the same. I cannot consume enough aviation content in my spare time. About a month ago, I came across the Midlife Pilot podcast, and I binged through all the episodes. It feels as though I'm sitting in a hangar with some guys discussing all things aviation, and I'm in heaven. One of the things I especially love is Brian's one-liners that are absolute gold and leave me laughing to myself in the car, but receive no response from Ben or Ted, albeit I'm on the audio side right now, so I don't see the facial expressions. I'm planning to pursue a sport pilot certificate out of HWV, Hotel Whiskey Victor. Wow, that's a hard one. Brookhaven Airport on Long Island. I took a discovery flight in a Piper Archer about 3 months ago, and I still cannot get the smile off my face. I'm just so excited to have finally found a community of people that are exactly like me, midlife aviation obsessionistas. I look forward to joining live on Monday nights and following along as you continue to grow. P.S. If you know anyone on Long Island who wants some company for a $100 hamburger, please let me know. I 100% won't buy them lunch and pay for gas in case the FAA is watching. So if we've got any Long Island listeners, we can connect you with David W.
Makes me want to fly up to Long Island just to go take him for a $100 hamburger.
That's a great story.
One of the many reasons I'm a sport pilot is because I haven't had to deal with it. I've had 2 cornea transplants. So that actually hits close to home. And it's something I have to deal with to get a full medical. It's an easy one, but it's so it was cool to get that and see, oh yeah, cornea transplants, that sounds really familiar.
What if, Ted, what if we just weren't keeping track of things very well and that this was feedback that you sent in early on as a listener?
I was looking at the date on the email just to make sure that this wasn't something from 2 years ago.
I could totally see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I have so much in common with this guy.
Man, he sounds so smart. Yeah.
I'll bet he's good looking too.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Good stuff. I really appreciate that. That's a really nice, I don't know, if we can have any small accessory kind of role to people being inspired to do anything close to aviation, just being an enthusiast or flying or taking it on a little bit or a lot. I just think it's just it's a great thing to be, I don't know, in the mix of anybody's inspiration. And I don't know, it's just cool that people listen. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it captures a lot of the essence that we've talked about just hanging out in a hangar, being friends. We're not teaching you. We can't. We're learning ourselves. And to share experiences and to share the stories. It's really fun.
That's right.
That's very cool. Do we want to save the next feedback for next week, maybe? Or do you want to go ahead it now from Cowboy Pilot?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have the clip for that, so I think I should wait. Yeah.
We'll maybe play it next week. But we had RH and AG on our podcast a little while back.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Opposing Basis, if you're still living under a rock, it is one of the premier aviation podcasts. They're air traffic controllers and pilots. But he got a tip from RH during that episode, and then he used it, and he got a really long-winded compliment from ATC. So, but we'll probably hit that up next week.
Yeah. So next week we're going to talk about we're going to do information whiskey, so it'll fit in really well. Just kind of a random topic.
Yeah. End of the month. That's what we do.
Yeah. If you guys are going to send us stuff, this is the week to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. Also want to remind everybody, for those who support us on Patreon, we do contribute 10% of our proceeds to Freedom Aviation Network. Actually got a email tonight on the one that I could have done if I wasn't already out of town. I was really bummed about it. I'll let them know. Next one I'll be trying really hard for. But it's a great organization. You can check them out. And just recapping our topic tonight. There's a lot more to do than just going to get a $100 hamburger. Ted has the sticker to prove it.
Yeah. If
you're watching the live stream. Want you to make sure you reach out to us. Give us your feedback. Tell us what you think. If you have something you want us to talk about, let us know. We're here for you. We want you to be a part of it. I'm getting yelled at in the private chat. I have absolutely no idea what it says, and I'm going to continue to ignore it.
We're just throwing Ben off the rhythm here.
We're like the kids snickering at the dinner table while you're trying to say the blessing or something.
Let's see. Don't mention what I'm going to put into my camera. It's a visual thing. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That doesn't sound very good now to the audio at all. So somebody's going to have to get clear about this.
Well, I'll explain it now.
Let's do this too, though. Our friend Nathan Ballard has established a Patreon channel, and he sends out this monthly sticker drop. And I freaking love it. I'm filling up my water bottles with them. He's got a great YouTube channel. Y'all should definitely check him out.
Yeah.
Always.
He's a favorite.
What else, gentlemen, for the good of the order?
Good to go.
We're good to go. Everybody in the chat, thank you for all your input. It was great to see some new names in there tonight. We love you guys. So come and check us out next week when we talk about anything and everything. Good Lord knows what it's going to be. But we're going to go ahead and sign off episode 94 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast.